Russian oil, and now Russia's cutting off oil to Bulgaria and Poland, and basically playing a game of geopolitical economic chicken with the rest of Europe, because that could spur, a quicker transition off of Russian gas. So if we zoom out to the strategic picture, especially with the capability of Western arms, Dave, which you and Glenn are very familiar with, when do you expect these arms to become to start making an impact, and when do you expect them to become decisive? Because as Michael Kaufman pointed out, the Russian military specialist, probably the top one in the world, at least in the United States, Western world, he's pointed out that no matter what gains Russia makes at the end of this phase, they will be a spent force in the next few months because of the fact that they're just not mobilizing like Ukraine is, where Ukraine is mobilizing its entire society for war. They've started conscription or activization of reserves, and you could start to see this summer brigades and divisions of new formations coming up out of the Ukrainian side. So just wanted to think about that and talk about what is the impact of Western weapons and when.
Well, the first thing you hit on is the convenience of Germany finding alternate oil and gas resources, and then immediately announcing arms support to Ukraine. Just very convenient. And they're just trading time for space is all that Germany did in that, and it's a classic move. It's still, and we hit on this 2 weeks ago, talking about Western NATO type weapons, or even Soviet bloc weapons to Ukraine from surpluses in former Soviet countries. Yeah, especially the more Western NATO type weapon systems. It still takes time. Glenn and I were talking offline about the M777, 155 millimeter towed howitzer, which is a large number of the cannon artillery heading to Ukraine. That is not a simple weapon system. The U.S. Army has a hard time maintaining and employing the M777. It's a complicated howitzer, and introducing that into Ukraine is going to take training. It's going to require a logistics trail that doesn't currently exist to maintain the fleet of 777s being provided. Before they can, once they hit the ground in Ukraine, it's going to take a good 2 to 3 weeks of pure training, 10-hour per day training on that system, employing that system in a training environment, before I would really be comfortable employing that weapon system forward, right? So your earliest 3 weeks after new weapon systems that they would be unfamiliar with hitting the ground before they're employed, up to 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay, so in the next 4 to 6 weeks, you'll start to see, and to be clear, that's 100 howitzers. That is quite a bit of artillery with good range, improved range.
It's a great system when it works.
I'd be very surprised if we see it even in that time frame. Although they might do it just out of desperation. You've got several things about this. Is that I'm not sure, and Yuri may have a better handle on this, and if he hasn't, I need him to go and ask questions of who are the people who are going to be doing this, because the manpower for the artillery is actually on the front line working. So if you want people to go back, are you going to take back people from the front line who are the experts, or are you going to try and take new boys? Because if you put newbies on a gun like this, you're in a surefire thing of broken legs, broken arms, hands cut off, fingers cut off, and things like this. Because these are serious pieces of equipment, the guns. It's the same with most of the weapons, but in the hands of an experienced artillery sergeant, then they'll find it a joy and they'll learn quickly. So it's having the right people, and there's a lot of equipment coming. I mean, there is a lot of equipment coming. I mean, it's something like 18 gun batteries worth of equipment by the time you look at AS-90 and other guns. That's a lot of people. And then, you know, how are they going to blend that into the system that they have at the moment? And that, for me, is totally unclear. I can't see that because, obviously, you know, the plan is secret, but it's really complex. Now, some vehicles, some equipments like Bushmaster, I've heard that they're already on the front line. I mean, I have no evidence of this, but they could be, because they came a couple of days ago, and it's possible to drive Bushmasters all the way to the front line. It's not a difficult equipment to learn. You know, and someone who's been working on an armored vehicle will get in one and will if he's IT literate, they're instinctive. So they'll know what the switches are for, and they'll work out what the other switches are for pretty quickly.
Except for the driver's seat's on the wrong side of the road. But anyway,
the driver's seat is on the wrong side of the road. But remembering that every one of those brigades has got guys who've worked in Britain. Yeah. So for them, it won't be on the wrong side of the road. They'll be quite happy with it. Yeah, but it is a point. It is a point, and it does
international legions.
And Sam, I mean, why it's a serious point? Why it's a serious point is that because it's an operational danger. Because when you're under stress, then you don't move. You move automatically. So if someone in the Bushmaster suddenly gets shot at, okay, he's going to move his left hand to move the gear and to do things. He's not going to be using the same hand movements that he is normally used to. And therefore, there's a risk there for people who suddenly come under fire and when they're in a new vehicle and it is on the wrong side of the road, that they don't actually handle it in an instinctive way. It's going to take them weeks to become instinct. So you've got that. Then you made this point about, you know, new brigades and new divisions. Well, again, who are the people who are going to do that? How do you create a new brigade and a new division? I mean, I have actually written about this. Go on. Sorry, you're frozen. I mean, the only spare people are the Territorial Army, because most of the reserves, the sort of the third and fourth wave of reserves, a lot of those have already joined the Territorial Army. So, you know, they're going to have to pull people.
Let me describe the situation. So we have about 200,000 regular army troops. But by the way, for last 8 years, we have 500,000 veterans who came through war. So they were also artillery battalions. They went through tank battalions. So, for example, one of my employee, he came back to frontline as in regular brigade, and he was driver in tank driver.
So, you mean now?
Now, yes.
Yeah, but that means he's already been used, mate. He's not free. Everybody talks about this 500,000 and 200,000. You've already lost a lot. And already a lot of those people that have been in the ATO have already gone forward to the ATO, 100,000 plus, because the army was so thin on the ground at the start of the war. So, you know, the numbers don't always add up. The numbers that are written down don't always add up. Okay, there are probably lots in Lviv. Lviv has got 100,000+ more territorials, but someone has got to turn those into brigades and divisions. It doesn't happen on its own. You've got to have officers, you've got to have sergeant majors, you've got to have vehicles, not just the vehicles that they're being given by, you know, an artillery battery has got an artillery battery with 6 guns should be about 30 vehicles. Okay, so you've got to have all the support vehicles, the Land Rovers, the observer vehicles, the logistic vehicles, and everything else. So this whole thing, this whole management thing, just for people and vehicles and equipment to make new stuff is an extremely complex task, and it's not going to happen in 5 minutes.
No, it's not.
It just isn't. I mean, in the First World War, when they made new infantry battalions, they were not putting them into war for over a year. Over a year, and many battalions were deemed not ready for war even after a year with new people. So, you know, this is, Ukrainians are wonderful, I know this, but, you know, even if you pull that year down to 2 months or 3 months, it's still a challenging activity, management activity to make all these things. Is all I would say.
No, you're right. And Glenn, I know you know this from advising at the MOD level, the challenges they'll have with that. Yuri, you were talking about some of the people have been called up. Are any of them going to fresh units, or this is probably classified information if they are?
Secret.
So, yeah, we can only speculate here.
I will not tell you where they went by, but from my company, these guys are experienced and they have war experience. They know their units, they know their commanders, and from information I know that every day we are training, and also the best people are sent to train with the new weapon. The best experienced people. So it's not new people. This is experienced people that are retraining for new weapon, and we send the best people for training. Not the worst, not the youngest, not freshmen.
That's good, because that's what needs to happen, and it's the big challenge. Then is when you send the best people away, then you weaken the front line a bit, because that's an inevitability. So this is going to be a challenging, like 3, 4, 5 weeks until the stuff starts to come online.
Yes, as you told, now it's more or less a stabilized front line, and it's not a big intensivity of fighting. So what we have at the eastern front line for Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast, we have a 3-line of defense which were built 2015, 2016, 17, 3 lines of defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the big fighting is happening to the south and to the north of that line of defense, in Izium, and that's the area where there has been grinding progress.
And there's no defense lines there. There are no defense lines around Izium.